He's here with pro wrestling savior, the one, JT Dunn. And if you're on YouTube, you want wrestling information, you want to see some stuff, Dre 41 YouTube, the exclusive spot right here. The JT Dunn.
What's up, y'all? It is Dre 41, and as promised, I was able to get an interview with Gamertags. He is doing the ultra violent independent wrestling game that we've seen on Twitter. I'll have his link in the description below. Definitely follow him to see more of his game that he's coming up with, previews, videos, things of that nature. So definitely follow him. What we're going to do is get into a little bit of an interview, ask him a couple of questions about what he thinks about wrestling, how he got into it, and how he also got into creating this wrestling game. So let's get into it. First and foremost, man, like, when did you first start getting into wrestling?
Very, very fast. I think, like a lot of people of my time, it was what year was it? It was either 99 or 2000. It was the Street Fighter Royal Rumble with, was it Cactus Jack at the time? Is that who he was at the time? And Triple H?
Yeah.
And that was when I was really small. Not that small there. And yeah, that was just, because that sent a buzz through school, because everybody in England got it on like Channel 4 at like 1 a.m. And that's when I first started watching, and then it sort of kept up with it from there for a bit. It was about that time that I got a PlayStation as well. So I started with like SmackDown 2 and that, and it sort of ballooned from there. So I think I watched like, what was it, WWF at the time, until about maybe 2002, 2003, something like that, and then I just kind of stopped on that and then picked up, because I was on all the old No Mercy hacking boards and everything, and the people there were big into wrestling, like all the indies and stuff at the time, and so a lot of CZW was making the rounds on that, on those forums at that time, and so that's how I kind of fell into that stuff. I think some people were recommending, like, oh yeah, just try out like I think, what was it, Tournament of Death or something. I was like, yeah, I'll try it, and then there you go. I think it was Tournament of Death 1 and 2 were the first ones that I picked up, and that was that. But I stopped watching it for a long time. I think probably from about 2007 up until about 16, I just didn't watch anything, which probably doesn't sound very good for me. But it was back in about 16. I might have been 15 actually. I just, on a whim, I just started picking up some of the old CZW stuff again, and then obviously since then it's also had like a bit more of a renaissance, I suppose, deathmatch stuff, hasn't it, with GCW and all those guys just starting it up and making it much more popular now. So it was a good time to get back into it, I think.
Okay. And now, you were talking about wrestling when you were growing up. What wrestling games were you playing as a kid? Or was it just the WWF games? Were you into WCW, any of the ECW games?
I really started with SmackDown 2. So I picked that up, and I think because it was really arcadey, it's quite fun. And then it didn't take long to find all like the hacks that people were doing for SmackDown. So I fell into that as well. I started doing a lot of that. That's pretty much all my youth was. Oh, pardon me, you have to leave that part out. But I followed the SmackDown series for a while. I think Just Bring It kind of burned me a little bit because it wasn't everything that I was expecting. Mm-hmm. Then it was obviously Shut Your Mouth. And weirdly, I kind of stopped playing the SmackDown games around the time of Here Comes the Pain. I actually didn't play it that much. The one that, so about that time, that was PS2, right? And I had a GameCube, and that was what I would play. So I then started playing like WrestleMania 18, which everybody was saying was going to be the next big thing, and then it came out, and it was all right, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And then 19 came out, and that's actually really good. That's one of my favourites. And then obviously Day of Reckoning 1 and 2. So those are the ones that I played. But when I had an N64, like I just picked up all of them that I could. I started with No Mercy, played that. And then, for me, a lot of it was just like the actual hacking and the codes and stuff like that. That's what I was really interested in. Mm-hmm. And so it became a case of like, you try and do everything you could in No Mercy, and then you pick up like WrestleMania 2000, see what you can do in that. that was a weird game. And then there'd be like, from there, I basically worked my way back. I'd go into the shops and see what other ones I could find. So would get WCW, was it NWA Revenge?
Yep.
Or was it World Tour? Both of those anyway. Like both of the WCW, the good WCW games I picked up. I never got Thunder or whatever else it was.
Lucky.
Out,
You were lucky.
Yeah, I don't really have any sort of desire to pick those up later on anyway, so I'm happy I never played those. But yeah, basically, like, when Here Comes the Pain came out, I kind of split off and I went on to the GameCube games instead. And I think about Day of Reckoning was the last one that I played properly back then. I didn't pick up any of the WWE games since then. Yeah, I played them recently. But yeah, I didn't keep up with the WWE games, especially as they got a bit more like too complicated.
Yeah,
I couldn't keep up with it.
I can understand that. But when as like a gamer, you know, what made you decide to say, you know what, let me try to make a game on my own. Let me get into not only just a regular wrestling game or a simulation style, but a backyard or a hardcore wrestling game. When did that happen?
That's quite an in-depth story. It's not something I actually sat down and sort of thought about doing. I think, let me rewind. I mean, the closest thing to thought that went into what it looks like now was, I think at the top of the year, I think it was like 17. I was like, oh.
Sorry, my phone.
It's alright, I thought you were.
It's good.
So I think at the top of 17, like, I had 2 game ideas I was going to do. And initially, I just wanted to, like, get one little thing up in this wrestling project. I would release a video of it, and that would be it. And I would just be like, all right, I've done what I wanted to do with that, and I would quit. So it was going to be like a 2-month project. And that never came, and I still haven't released what I wanted to show off that. But before that, so obviously I've been in the games industry since about 2008. I've been interested in it a lot longer than that as well. So it's kind of about both paths sort of converging really back in that 17, 18 year. So I started, I worked. Then I got some time to sort of just start developing some of my own stuff, just in my spare time. So I try and do whatever. Anyway, this wrestling project, it started out as a mobile game. It was going to be something like, I think I mentioned it before, but it's going to be something like Angry Birds, like fully cartoon, a bit more ECW based. You'd throw people through tables. Never got around to starting on that, but then I started it as a VR thing, which I know some people have seen. Like, I started doing some VR stuff with it, and that was just experimentation. Yeah. But then, as I was watching more and more of the like deathmatch wrestling stuff, and I was doing some more tests with some of the other stuff that I was doing, like breaking tables, because that's always been my favourite part in these games, is like the weapons stuff, like jumping through tables and hitting people with tubes and stuff. Well, not tubes, but just weapons. And I was like, oh, maybe I could try and do that now, because it's my career and I should be able to try and figure out at least a little bit of how to do that. Which is famous last words. But so I started, and yeah, it kind of just molded itself into like, oh, hold on, rather than this gimmicky VR thing, could it be this? And then it was going to be the idea that a lot of people have is it's going to be like Burnout, where you try and do as much damage in the time, but then developed it further, and it's like, oh, hold on, maybe it could just be an actual wrestling game. Like, maybe it could just be not standard, but more typical wrestling game, because nobody's really doing this stuff with the deathmatch stuff that I'm really into. And I know, like, from all my years in game development, I know that the deathmatch stuff ports over really, really well into feeling like a good game. Lots of the factors there just are what makes a fun game. So yeah, it's just those two things sort of just merged together, and over time, like, I think rather than having decided that I was working on this deathmatch game, it just kind of just fell into place. Like, oh, I want to try maybe a wrestling game, and then, well, here's this that I'm really into at the moment. Let's just try and do that, and then that's kind of been the past few years of my life, to be honest.
Okay. So have you looked into possibly getting it funded, a GoFundMe, maybe like a Patreon, something like that?
Yeah, not properly. I've always said, like, I wouldn't do that stuff whilst I can't commit like a lot of time to it. Like as everybody knows, I haven't really done. Well, I have done stuff on it, but I haven't released a lot of stuff recently in about the past half a year, 9 months, just because I've been just so busy, and it doesn't strike me as the thing to do. Like setting up crowdfunding and that when you can't commit fully to it, it's like saying, give me money for this, but then I'm not going to do anything with it. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, if my circumstances changed, I probably would think about something, but what path that goes down, I don't know. They've all got like benefits, and they've all got positives and negatives, basically, all the different paths. Like Patreon's one thing, of course Kickstarter is another thing, but it's a difficult one, and I feel like I say different things every time. I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot. But like particularly like Kickstarter, I think people are a bit more accustomed to like lower targets and not sort of having a bigger picture of what a game would actually take to would actually need to complete. So if I went in there and asked for the money that I actually needed, it would just get laughed out, like no, we're not funding that. And then if I go in with the money that people are more accustomed to, which is fine, it's a path, I would then have to still find a publisher to try and drum up some more money and funding for that. So, I mean, as you can tell, I mean, there's fragments of an idea there of a path, but what that path is at the moment, I don't quite know. Definitely at some point, I do want to just fully commit to it. It's not something that I sort of I'm ready to just let slide, just put, all right, that was fun, and then just drop it. I don't really want to do that. I do want to see it out as far as I can take it.
Okay.
But yeah, how I get there, I really don't know at the moment.
Now, let's say in a perfect world, you were able to 100% commit to getting this game done. What features would you want to put into the game? Implement what characters would you want? Original characters, or would you want licensed characters? What would you want in your perfect game?
All right, let's start with the characters because that's relatively straightforward. Ideally, I'd be looking for quite a small roster. Like I've posted about that recently, actually. I'd be looking for quite a small roster. Like I want to say 8, but nobody would like just 8 wrestlers to start with. But to me, I mean, you might have to just take that. 8, 16, I would love licensed characters. We've got a few of those actually in the pipeline right now. Some more of the eagle-eyed people who follow my Twitter will probably already know 1, 2, maybe 3 of those. And there's one that I'm keeping secret until we can just fully get that done. That one's really exciting. I mean, they're all really exciting, but and the initial roster, I always wanted to, well, not the initial, I want to split it into like almost like factions or groups of like eras. So you'd have the early 2000s sort of American deathmatch stuff, probably East Coast. Like you'd have the newer guys from like 15 onwards who are making a name for themselves. You'd have the even newer gang. Awful. You know what I mean? You'd have all these different batches of people, and then eventually it would almost be like a deathmatch all-stars game, where like you'd have one guy from like 2002 fighting one of the hottest guys from like 2019. That would be the ideal situation with a roster. What happens there, I don't know. In terms of feature set, I think I'm pretty locked on what the feature set should look like. I've always been about create modes. Not only, I personally think wrestling games live and die off your create mode. Like, really good create modes, your game can be, just setting expectations here, your game can be a 5, 6 out of 10 and it will still be sustained.
Yep.
Because people enjoy having their own creations in there. I'm not saying I want to aim for a 5, 6, but you gotta throw your stone and see where it lands.
But so with just the matches within themselves, do you plan on implementing maybe tag team?
Right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was gonna. Yeah. So with that, I mean, initial release would be 1v1. Like that's pretty much all I'm focusing on. It's just 1v1. Tag team eventually would be great, and then more players and more players. What I found is I've been working on a different game this year full time, and what I found is like 1v1, not easy, but it's doable. The moment you add a third person into that mix, gameplay just gets really, really complicated to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And if I start trying to do that, I will never finish anything. It's probably not the way to do it. But yeah, 1v1 to start with.
Okay.
I would love like all these multi-man battles, but again, I've got to reduce the scope of stuff. But I know you're saying hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a hypothetical world, I'd have 2K16 just fully skinned with every weapon and every spot that I wanted, and that would be it. But that's not. There's no way I can support that. But with the create modes, I wanted to do things differently. I wanted, you'll have you create a wrestler. To me, that's a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the further things there's some things that people think they've seen, but they won't have seen it quite like this. There's like create a ring, where everybody thinks like, I can change what the apron looks like, I can change what the mat looks like, and stuff like that. But I would love to take it further than that and change like basically each side of the ring, say what that is. So the front side of the ring might have barbed wire ropes. One side might have no ropes at all. Your posts might be completely different. Toying with the idea of like a short boy ring, but I don't. Once you start doing that, the complexity just ramps so high, like different levels to do. But that's an idea. But then there's the idea of like, all right, for this ring, we're going to take the mat off, and that's going to do extra damage when you get slammed on it. And then I'm going to get into the detail of, okay, so if the mat's off and you've got the boards, what's underneath the boards? So there'll be like some spots where you'll be able to take away those boards and then see what's in there. So you got that nice moment in Tournament Survival 3 where they took the boards off and there was a fully gimmicked like barbed wire net already strung up between the ring supports. So to have that sort of ready to go in your match and then being able to build up to that, so that'd be create a ring.
Yeah.
There'd be like full customization on all the ropes. So again, you'd have, this is getting into the macro detail, but it really excites me.
Yeah.
The micro detail, I mean. So the ropes are split into sections of 4. And within each of those quarters, you can say what sort of gimmick is on the rope. So you can say like light tube wall, pane of glass. You can mix and match it. You can have all light tube wall, all glass, or just standard ropes, if you're a madman. And of course you could alternate. You could say like flaming bundles, explosions, flaming bundles, explosions, stuff like that. So you'd be able to really build up your match in that regards. But then there's the other creative modes that I would kill to do, which is like create a weapon, which would be like, you'd have like different templates that I'm going to do, like medium stick, long stick, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like you choose your base, you choose what you sort of wrap onto it, you choose what you apply to that, whether it's like thumbtacks, glass, whatever. And then you can choose you can apply like more gimmicks onto that. Like, okay, does it explode when I hit somebody with it? And does it do this? Does it do that? What color is it? And stuff like that. So that would be the create a weapon stuff. So really enabling people to do that sort of fans bring the weapon type thing, but on their own game. And hopefully you'd be able to share these between users as well. You'd be like, all right, check out this this weird light tube bundle that I've made with like glass bulbs attached to it. I don't know, some weird stuff. But and then there's just a few more like create a cage. I think people have seen a little bit of that.
Yep.
That's one of the ones that I'm really excited about. It's just like being able to just build up your own cage structures, how they look, whether they're wrapped in barbed wire, so they have this attachment system of gimmicks being put on them, whether the cage pieces explode or not. I'll probably just keep the cages as static so they won't just fall.
Okay. Listen, from what you were saying, man, it's like really exciting to have someone that enjoys wrestling but wants to make a game that's so different from what we're getting on a regular basis. Like that, Like what you're explaining sounds so exciting. Like I really hope that eventually we all get to play this game. But also with you saying that you did watch hardcore wrestling from the Eastern United States. Have you ever watched Japanese death matches? You ever got into that?
No, I mean my card's going to be taken away from me here, but no, not so much to be honest. My deathmatch card will be taken away from me. No, to be honest, I want to get started on it, but I just haven't done so yet. But that's something that I would love to accommodate as well. Like I want it to a degree where I can get an idea of the types of things that they're using and the gimmicks and how they're set up. Because like every promotion has its own like really weird style of these contraptions, which I'm finding really fascinating. Like Mid South will do almost sort of more like Tom and Jerry sort of contraptions. I mean that in the best possible way. Like there's those great ones where they like things are suspended in the turnbuckles, but you've got to break a light tube for it to fall down on people like Mousetrap, and that type of style thing is great. So we get to get like a wider range of things like that. But I would say that obviously the gameplay and like how the moment to moment wrestling is all based more on obviously the American style and probably earlier 2000s.
Okay.
That type of wrestling. It's just my frame of reference is what I would like to see. So.
Okay. Now since you are a fan of hardcore wrestling, can you give us a couple of your favorite hardcore wrestlers?
Oh, there's too many. I mean, you got your standards from the early time like Mondo and Zandig, like Wife Beater, Necro Butcher, like basically all anybody who was on those shows, like they're all just classics. And the more modern day guys as well. I'm fearful of like not mentioning somebody, just out of not because they're not my favourite, just because there's too many to mention. But I know I'll keep it neutral by saying a lot of the guys now, are really really impressive. Like I can't name any at the moment because there's just so many. That sounds like a cop out.
No, it's okay.
But, there's a lot of guys that come to mind, and then in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, if I don't say so and so,
No, that's cool. It's cool. So also with you making this game, do you have a certain end date set, or is it as you go right now?
Yeah, it's kind of as I go. I mean, the running joke is anybody who asks me like what the release date is, we just add a month or a year onto the running release date total. So I think we're at about maybe 2041 right now with the estimated release date. It's jokes, but no, I'm not going to say it because I would have said it about a year ago as well. I would say that I feel like it's in a good place, even though people haven't seen a lot that's happening. There's a lot that's going on, and I'm very, very happy with the cleanliness of the project and how the code is structured now. Like it's very, very flexible. But I'll leave that question with this. I don't want to be working on it for three more years, 4 more years. I don't want to be working on it for the rest of this decade. Not because I don't believe in it, but because I want to see it completed as much as anyone else. And that probably means more of a scoped sort of first release, like maybe early access or something like that, where the scope is really really reduced. Which I've already been cutting things, and I've been like, all right, I can't do it as good as they're doing it in 2K. There's just no chance. So I'm scoping things down. So I would love to tell you like 1-2 years done, or 1-2 years you'll get something to play. But
okay, well, I mean, you know what? Whenever you do get it finished, based upon your passion for it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very, very good and entertaining game, and that's what we're looking for as wrestling fans. We're looking for a great wrestling game, something different that we didn't have or never had, actually. I mean, the closest thing we ever had to what you're making was like ECW Anarchy Rules, and that came out, 20 years ago? So you're definitely...
I never got around to that one.
Oh, you gotta play that, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, is it actually decent?
No, but but it has a barbed wire match. It has a dumpster match. It has a brimstone match, which is like fire around the
I've
ring.
seen that,
Yeah. So I mean, it's not great. The controls aren't great, but for nostalgia purposes, you know, you gotta just appreciate it. You know, it's always
I'll give it a go.
yeah. I mean, you'll probably find it for cheap, probably $3, something like that. It's not expensive at all. But yeah, man. I mean, really, that's it. All the questions that I have for you. I definitely appreciate the time that you gave me today for this interview, just talking about the game. I'll also have gameplay footage rolling as well. But I'll also have Gakdaw's Twitter information and the link in the description below. But thank you, man. I definitely appreciate this interview. Thank you very much, man. And yeah, just stay safe out there.
Yeah, you too, man. It's my pleasure as well. It's been great.
Right.
Anytime I've got tons of things to say. Like, we could jump into another create mode another time.
Oh yeah, listen, yeah, that's what I get into.
That,
yeah, that's what I do. So we can definitely do another one talking about creations. That'll probably be way too long, but it's fine. We'll cut it up. But yeah, man, thank you.
At some point, we might even have some gameplay footage to show people. I laugh as I say it.
Hey, you said it.
At some point we'll have something.
Mm-hmm.
All
right, man. Well, I much appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.